Welcome to Football Gameplan's FCS Kickoff, presented by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and the 2017 college football season is rapidly approaching, and we are here to get you ready for the season as we preview the Patriot League. Here's a look at what we have in store for you guys in this season's preview. We'll take a look at some of the incoming talent in our recruiting roundup. We'll hand out some superlatives, including our preseason all-conference team in our conference preseason awards segment. And we will also take an early look at some of the 2018 NFL draft prospects that you want to keep an eye on this season. But first, let's kick things off by taking you around the Patriot League as we go into our 4-minute offense. Both Holy Cross and Georgetown got great news in the offseason as Peter Pujols and Tim Barnes were granted another year of eligibility. Both quarterbacks were starters last year and suffered season-ending injuries. For Georgetown, losing Barnes derailed what could have been a special season on the Hill. Having both guys returning not only strengthens the teams at the most important position, but further strengthens the Patriot League as a whole. The Patriot League, in my opinion, seems to be disrespected on a national scale despite having one of the most explosive offenses in Lehigh, one of the best players in the nation in Chase Edmonds, and one of the best pass rushers in Pat Afriye out of Colgate. So in order to get that respect, you have to take the fight nationwide. So this year, you're seeing some great out-of-conference matchups like Fordham versus Eastern Washington, Bucknell taking on William & Mary, and Colgate traveling out west to battle Cal Poly. It's matchups like this that puts the majority of the country on notice about the great brand of football that's being played in the Patriot League. Fordham's running back Chase Edmonds has a chance to break numerous records this year as he caps off a sensational Ram career. Right now, Edmonds has 5,285 yards rushing. He's averaged 1,761 yards each season. So looking at the NCAA career rushing list from FBS to Division III, if Edmonds just averages what he has averaged his career this season, he would best Donnell Pumphrey, who currently leads the FBS. He'll pass the current FCS leader Adrian Peterson out of Georgia Southern. 1,800 yards would even have him pass Ron Dane as well, whose numbers reflect the total that includes his bowl games, which wasn't added by the NCAA during his career. Late last season, we saw Donnell Pumphrey break Ron Dane's record, and health permitting, we should see Edmonds do the same this year. The Lafayette Leopards have a new head coach in John Garrett, who comes from the Richmond Spiders program where he spent last season as the offensive coordinator. Now, Garrett should inject some new life into the Leopards' offensive attack as he has an extensive track record of success at both the collegiate level and the NFL level. Garrett was a longtime assistant with the Cincinnati Bengals and Dallas Cowboys, where his brother is now the head coach, Jason Garrett, amongst other stops. In college football, you're only as good as your ability to recruit and develop the players that you bring to your program. And this past signing day, there was no shortage of future impact players added to the conference. So let's hit the recruiting trail to see how well these teams recruited this past offseason. Bucknell Bison Foundation is built along the line of scrimmage. We just saw offensive lineman Julian Davenport go in the 2017 NFL Draft, and defensive tackle Abdullah Anderson may hear his name called this upcoming April as well. So it's not hard for the Bison to get top-notch line of scrimmage prospects. Justice Peppers of King George, Virginia, has a chance to be a special one. He's very athletic for a big man that has functional strength to get consistent movement up front. Colgate landed a very talented defensive lineman in Hunter Grossman, the 6'3", 235-pound prospect from Lakeside High School in Seattle, Washington, plays with tremendous length and shows above-average instincts that allow him to be a disruptive player on both ends of defense. The Fordham Rams nabbed a really good tight end prospect in Jack Gildia. With the way the Rams utilize their tight end in their offensive attack, a prospect like Gildia treats the blocking like he treats defenders after the catch. He will definitely thrive in the Bronx. I think he will develop into one of the more premier targets at the position within the conference. Georgetown does a great job recruiting nationally, and they landed a good one in wide receiver Dijon Williams of Lithonia, Georgia, right outside Atlanta. Williams has that take-it-to-the-house type speed that threatens defenders, and with the way the Hoyas love to spread the field, Williams may find himself in an early role as a freshman. Holy Cross lost some excellent talent up front due to graduation, and Noah Johnson will be a big piece in helping replenish that talent. The 6'5", 240-pound defensive lineman, I think, can max out at about 275 pounds by the time it's all said and done without losing speed or quickness. I think he's going to be a really good player for the Crusaders. When you hire an offensive-minded coach, you want to see the type of quarterback he brings into the program. Reed Elkholtz out of Indian Hill High School in Cincinnati, Ohio, has the tools that you look for at the position. He's one of 3 quarterbacks that John Garrett brought in this recruiting class and has some of the most impressive touch on the intermediate to deep passes that you'll ever see. Linebacker Eric Slater at 6'2", 225 gives the Lehigh Mountain Hawks a lot of the same elements they got from the terrific Colton Caslaw last season throughout the course of his career. Slater is an above-average athlete that takes great angles to the ball carrier and is one that can more than hold his own in coverage.
Well, the FCS creates so many opportunities for young men. And it's, I think, and you look in our league, it's really the best. It's the best combination of winning football, but also outstanding student athletes. That's really the true model here. And a lot of the FCS programs feel the same way. And, we're blessed to be where we're at here at Lehigh, and everybody else in this league feels the same way. But the FCS, you'll see a lot of people that aren't coming necessarily to the NFL, but what they are is they're becoming leaders of industry, whatever they do when they graduate. And that's really the most important piece of going to college and playing college football, is to getting that degree. And our guys really excel in that response.
This conference is filled with talented players across the board, and what better way to illustrate that than to unveil our 2017 preseason all-conference team. Starting with the offensive side of the ball, and you can see that both Fordham and Lehigh are well represented on this list. Quarterback Kevin Anderson quietly put together a spectacular 2016 season, throwing for over 2,700 yards with 27 touchdowns to only 4 interceptions. Lehigh running back Don Bragalone has posted back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons and doubled up on his touchdown output from 7 as a freshman to 14 last year. Lafayette's tight end Dylan Wadsworth finished second on the team in receiving with 42 receptions for 591 yards and 2 touchdowns, and a dynamic duo of Lehigh wideouts Troy Pelletier and Gatlin Casey combined for 158 receptions, over 2,400 yards, and 16 touchdowns. And we talked about Chase Edmonds earlier in this video and his quest to set all kinds of NCAA rushing records. More people need to pay closer attention to what's going on in the Bronx, because they're missing one heck of a football player. Not only does Edmonds do a lot of damage on the ground, he's also valuable as a receiver coming out of the backfield. He averaged an impressive 7 yards a carry last season, and there's no doubt in the fact that he can do the same again in 2017. On the defensive side of the ball, you see a much better representation of the Patriot League as a whole. Christian Tate of Georgetown was highly impressive as a freshman last season on both defense and special teams as he blocked a couple of kicks and punts. Linebacker Ben Richard of Bucknell was all over the field for the Bison. He finished 2016 with 95 tackles, 11.5 TFLs, and 5 sacks. Colgate's Tyler Castillo led the team last year with 3 interceptions and also finished with 43 tackles on the year. Javion Butler of Georgetown is one heck of a playmaker for the Hoyas. I do the color commentary for the Hoyas home games, and it seemed if every week at a crucial point in the game, number 34 was making a big play to get these guys off the field. Butler led the team last year in tackles with 87, also finished with 5.5 TFLs and 6 pass breakups as well as an interception. So look for him to garner even more headlines this season. Moving on to the special teams units, and the Mountain Hawks of Lehigh boast 2 members, kicker Ed Mish and returnman Gatlin Casey, who racked up 785 kickoff return yards, averaging 24.5 yards a return, bringing 1 back for a touchdown. Now let's take a look at the Patriot League's best in our conference superlative segment. The best group of quarterbacks in the Patriot League goes to the Holy Cross Crusaders. We talked earlier about Holy Cross getting back their super talented Peter Puyalls back for another season, but you can't undersell the job that Jeff Wade did in relief. Wade threw for over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, completing 62.9% of his passes. Also, you can't forget about the versatile Blaze Bell, who also spent time as a receiver as well. That's a strong trio of signal callers heading into the season. The Fordham Rams have a terrific backfield led by one of the best in the nation in Chase Edmonds, who averaged 163.5 yards a game. D'Angelo Palladino made the most of his limited opportunities as a freshman last year, averaging 6.1 yards a carry. Also, keep an eye on incoming freshman Zach Davis from Wallingford, Connecticut. Davis has had an impressive high school career where he averaged over 300 yards rushing a game for the season. Lehigh gets the nod for the best receiving core in the Patriot League. Both Troy Pelletier and Gatlin Casey returned after both going over 1,000 yards and scoring a combined 26 touchdowns. This duo is so dangerous that head coach Andy Cohen trusts them with the return duties as well. Tight end Drew Paulson is also a very good target in his own right, and look for his targets to increase this season. Staying in Lehigh for the best offensive line as well, the Mountain Hawks are led by offensive tackle Zach Duffy, who has next level potential. Left tackle Timothy O'Hara made second team All-Patriot League last season, and center Brandon Short, like Zach Duffy, got his 5th year of eligibility and should give quarterback Brad Mays all the time he needs in the pocket to find those excellent receiving options. The Georgetown Hoyas take home the crown for the best defensive line in the Patriot League. Despite being slightly undersized as a group, the Hoyas are stout at the point of attack, and they're led by sophomore Christian Tate. He, along with Brendan Sawicki and Marquise Paris, do a great job of clogging rushing lanes while also freeing up pass rushing opportunities for the linebackers. We have a tie between Bucknell and Georgetown for the best linebacking core in the conference. The Bison have 2 tremendous linebackers in Ben Richard and Mark Piles, those who combined for 149 tackles, 15 TFLs, and 7 sacks. Matt Robinson was also solid in reserve action last season and should be ready for an increased role this year. Georgetown has a ton of athleticism at the second level with Javion Butler and Daniel Yankovic. Both guys are really good in the pass defense department as well, and we've already spoken about how good Butler is in every facet of defensive play. Senior linebacker Matthew Apuzzi finished 2016 with 57 tackles and 2 TFLs. In the secondary, the Fordham Rams boast a strong unit with Caleb Ham, Dylan Maben, Antonio Jackson, and Lawrence Minya. They are a long and athletic bunch of guys back there that are able to excel in both man and zone coverage, and the Rams also get an added boost with Bryce Petty returning from injury, as well as rising sophomore Jesse Bramble. We've talked earlier about the strength of the Mountain Hawks special teams unit. Both their top receivers handled their return game, while kicker Ed Mish also handles punting duties. Last year, Mish averaged an impressive 43 yards a punt. In the 2017 NFL Draft this past April, we saw 15 prospects from the FCS get their names called, and many more have signed free agent deals in the NFL and also in the CFL. And this is shaping up to be yet another strong class in the football championship subdivision. And here are a few guys that you want to keep an eye on for the 2018 NFL Draft. Abdullah Anderson can play multiple roles up front in any defense. When I went out to visit Bucknell last spring, head coach Joe Susan brought up Anderson as a player to keep an eye on moving forward. He's extremely strong at the point of attack and shows the ability to pressure the quarterback. Zach Duffy can play either tackle spot and shows the patience and precision in pass protection to excel as a pro. I think Kevin Anderson's game is being underrated. He's a quick, decisive decision maker with the football and has the athleticism to keep a defense honest. And it wouldn't surprise me to see Chase Edmonds garner a Senior Bowl invite with the career he's had and what he's about to do as a senior. Pat, a free A out of Colgate, has been impressive the last 3 seasons. Every time I've either called or scouted a Colgate game, number 37 made many impactful plays. He has that it factor that you look for from an edge rusher, and with a great sense of timing. Free A was able to bring home the ECAC FCS Defensive Player of the Year award last season. Gatlin Casey and Troy Pelletier are 2 tremendous playmakers. Both guys are 6'3", 210, and have a healthy combination of speed and quickness. Casey's ability as a kickoff returner, in addition to his receiving skills, give him a shot. Pelletier is an explosive route runner that has the athleticism to make any type of catch on a football field, and both guys should test well and have the track record of success to back up any questions scouts may have. Both guys, in my opinion, are pro players.
I think FCS presents such a great opportunity, at a school like Fordham and the rest of the Patriot League schools to get the best of both worlds. You're talking about, some of the top 60 academic institutions in the country. Combine that with, full scholarship Division I football that's able to compete on a national level. I think, from a recruiting standpoint and talking to other coaches, that's what we're identifying. We're identifying guys that academics and football are equally important. Not one more than the other, but truly equally important. I think that's the strength of FCS football, certainly in the Patriot League.
We've now reached the part of the show where it's time to go more in depth on what we can expect within the conference in 2017. There are a lot of reasons for optimism at Lafayette College. New head coach John Garrett will be able to inject a lot of life into an anemic offensive attack that puts the defense that has some talented players within the front seven at a disadvantage. The hope is that the offense can become stable enough to sustain drives, therefore the defense can get rest and make adjustments to get off the field. Look for the Leopards to be vastly improved in 2017 and pull off at least one upset within the Patriot League. The Georgetown Hoyas were able to get a big question answered this offseason with the return of quarterback Tim Barnes that answers any concerns one may have had about the Hoyas' passing game. Now the question now turns to the rushing attack. Last year, the Hoyas running backs averaged 24 yards a game. That number definitely has to improve if they want to have success. Defense and special teams will once again be as strong as teams found it tough to move the ball against the Hoyas in 2016. If their offense can balance the field, Georgetown has a chance to post its first winning season since 2011. The Bucknell Bison are sort of in the same boat as Georgetown. This is a team whose foundation is laid and built on the defensive side of the ball. They also make a living bullying people up front. Well, defensively, they should be able to be good once again. Offensively speaking, especially up front, is where you have some concerns as no starters return to a unit that owned the line of scrimmage in 2016. I know Coach Susan will get that unit tightened up by the start of the season. The real concern is whether or not they can get the passing game caught up as well, as they lose one of the best receivers in the Patriot League in Will Carter. We'll learn a lot about the Bison on September 16th as they travel down to William & Mary. Keep an eye on the Holy Cross Crusaders this year. Offensively, this team will look a lot like the 2015 squad that averaged over 30 points plus a game. The Crusaders will have the ability to beat you on the ground and through the air. My main concern is along the defensive line. They lost two excellent defensive ends in Dwayne Cameron and Ryan Smith. That's 20 sacks gone from a defense that gave up over 30 points a game last year. So will the young talent that got valuable reps last season make significant strides in 2017? That'll be the biggest question that they'll have to answer, and they'll get tested pretty quickly as they open up against UConn and play New Hampshire and Dartmouth as well in the first month of the season. If they can win that New England Invitational, they can make some noise in the Patriot League. Contrary to popular belief, I think the Colgate Raiders will be just fine on offense no matter which quarterback gets the job. Their offensive line is good, and they have a healthy stable of running backs returning. The major key to the season will be, ironically, the defensive side of the ball, which has always been the hallmark of this squad. Head coach Dan Hunt is an outstanding coach and developer of talent, so there's no doubt in my mind that he'll be able to get that side of the ball up to speed. The secondary should be formidable, and they still have one of the best pass rushers in the country in Pat Afriye. Their opener against Cal Poly and that option attack will test the new pieces within that front seven pretty quickly. The Lehigh Mountain Hawks should once again be an exciting team to watch this season. Offensively, quarterback Brad Mays takes over for Nick Shevniski and should continue to elevate his game. Mays played exceptionally well in relief last year and has the luxury of having all key components back on offense, from skill positions to the offensive line. The linebacking core is where you have some questions about the defense. Last year, they had two All-Patriot League performers that they have to replace. And as we saw last year, the defense doesn't have to be dominant, so to speak. They just have to be able to get key stops in certain situations. Now, what they have to improve on is pressuring the quarterback. That's one area of the defense outside of Tyler Kavinas that you're concerned about. So look for Harrison Johnson and Harrison Kaufman to make bigger strides up front this year. The schedule sets up nice for the Mountain Hawks, and if they can get on a nice roll, they'll start conference play October 7th against Colgate, which will be a huge game. The Fordham Rams offense should be just as prolific as Lehigh's this season, albeit in a different way. They're led by their running back Chase Edmonds and boast their own talented passer in Kevin Anderson. Defensively, the secondary is a strength, and they are much better at linebacker than many give them credit for. Their biggest question will be on the defensive line and their ability to stop the run. That was a big focal point of spring football for the Rams. They do get Tony Fox back up front, who missed virtually all of last season with an injury. Both Ty Green and Nick Angeli are seniors as well, so we should see improvement in the run defense department. Their opener, September 1st against Army, will be the truest of tests to that theory, which could set the table for what we should expect this season coming from the Bronx. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media accounts, and if you want to check out our other FCS season previews, visit our website at footballgameplan.com/FCS Kickoff. Also on iTunes, subscribe to Football Game Plan Podcast, where you can find our FCS Opening Drive podcast.